All right, guys, and we're back to Cricket 6, the community of conversation. And this is our part 2 of our last conversation with Farrell, Sophie, and Brandon, and myself, Gabriel. And our second topic for this evening is going to be, well, we kind of started off in our first segment, which is about unpopular opinions. And so we're just going to bring that full circle. You know what I'm saying? So if you have an unpopular opinion, please state it. Let's argue.
So I want to just tell Sophie, she wasn't here. My unpopular opinion was people should not be having children. But like, I had to explain that because that's an aggressive statement.
A very aggressive statement. But.
I want to have children. I want to have children. And I believe people should have children, but people should, as we know, as psychologists, having a child is a lot of work. And there's a lot of things that go into having a child. And you're bringing a human into the world. So therefore, you better think really hard and really long if you want a kid, you know, if you want multiple children. So just that was what we talked about before you came in.
I think that there is definitely a level of preparedness and union and just dedication to another person to have a at least somewhat functional family, family dynamics. I know you're taking that class, but just you have to completely honor your partner always. And what I've heard time and time and time again, it's like when you have a child, you pour all your energy into them. And sometimes I think about, man, it is a miracle that me and my siblings made it this far, because there's just so many. Like the amount of energy and patience and just like love and sometimes like not nice words. Gotta be completely honest, you know, like, oh, well, that was not necessary. And I'm gonna cry. But oh my gosh, like that was the best thing they can do on that day. And I'm grateful that, you know, my parents stayed together and, you know, they still love each other and they got to spend time together. Over the pandemic, because I have a very different family dynamic than most people. But I'm just grateful for it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that there is some level of commitment that needs to be recognized before having a child and growing a family.
Yeah. Deciding to. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinion.
Yeah, I've been thinking, Gabe, I think you're going to like this one actually, because this is what we were talking about a couple of days ago.
All right.
It pertains to happiness, right?
Oh.
And this kind of pertains to relationships too, whether it be friendships or romantic. Me and Gabe and I believe that you must establish your own happiness before you can. Okay, let me rephrase this. Take 2. This was awful. Okay. So you can be happy like with somebody else, but you can't be truly happy unless you're happy with yourself.
Agree.
First.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Like you can have like a level of affection towards somebody and it's definitely healthy, but you can't rely on somebody being your source of happiness because that will only lead you down a very dark road that is eventually going to crash. So this is more for you than anybody else, because I know you got a lot of things to say about like kind of putting your happiness on other people and, you know, taking time to meditate and really understand why you're feeling a certain way, why you're not feeling a certain way that you want to. Is a big part of it. So
okay, well, we're gonna
floor is yours.
We're gonna get right into this. Okay. My biggest problem with our generation today is that we don't spend enough time by ourselves. And by that, I mean, we're more scared to be by ourselves than we should be, you know, like I've asked my friends this, I've asked past relationships about this. People I know didn't know. And I say, I'm scared to be alone because I'm scared of like they're scared to have their mind, like, you know, ramble and to like they're afraid to think. That's like, that's what I hear. But like, listen to me. This is so key. This is so key. If you're afraid to think, then you have like renounced what it means to be human. I mean, your humanity, what makes us different, people say like we're animals and this idea of evolution. Yes, but our level of consciousness is unfathomable and uncompared to any other living species.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is because we have the ability to say no. Like if you think about it, animals, they have instincts. We can say no to our instincts. In fact, we can redefine our own instincts. I'm not a scientist, but you can back me up on this in psychology. Whenever you do something enough times, you create a new pathway in your brain, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. So that being said, you can retrain your instincts. You can retrain the way you perceive the world. You can retrain the way you interact with people. You can retrain the way you have relationships. You can retrain the way you study. You can retrain the way you live your own life. And at the end of the day, it's all based off of your ability to think, and not just think, but to be able to like say something and then think about what you just said and think about how you felt about it and think about maybe how others would feel about it. And then think about why you thought about that. And that sounds like a lot of work, but I guarantee you, the more you do it, the quicker it'll take and the more self-aware you'll become. And you won't find yourself in this constant race to like be by yourself. Or constant race to be with other people and avoid being by yourself. Right. Like you can't be afraid to think. Like that right there, like, oh, that's Genesis, bro. Free will. Like that's like the first thing. Like you can't even, I mean, like the idea of free will is a whole philosophical conversation. But think about it like this. If you are afraid to think, then I don't know how you're gonna be able to do anything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that like you have that fear. I'm not trying to be insensitive to the fact that some people are scared. They have like their problems that they're going through with their own mental health. But, and like, I get that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a reasonable fear, you know, because sometimes there's things in your head that like, you just don't want to explore. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just things that like, you know what? It's better if I just never go back there. If you have a pan, I do this at home a lot. I used to, and it's not good. If you got a pan on the stove, you scared of fire, why are you cooking?
Okay.
That was for you. I'm sorry. That was for you.
That was for me?
That joke was just purely that's a terrible joke, but I just
what's the punchline?
Nothing. It's just the fact that you just know I'm gonna say something foolish. So I had to
that was pretty foolish.
I know.
Okay.
Well, my thing is like,
it makes
if
sense.
it's just something going on in the background, bro, is it better to address it or to just let it get worse and worse?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. You just can't. You got to address those things sooner or later. And the more you put it away or lock a door behind it, the bigger and scarier it's going to get.
Yeah. Some people aren't like always ready to accept the repercussions of their actions, whether it be like with a friend or even just in general. Maybe it's a bad test and like you know the test results are there on Blackboard, but you're just trying to stay away from it because you know you did bad. And that's totally fine. I think there should be a grace period to that sort of thing, but
to heal,
you have to get to it eventually, you know? Like if you're still putting it off after 2 weeks, that's just developing such unhealthy habits that are just going to keep, you know, rolling on for the rest of your life. Then you're going to start doing it with the rest of your work. Then you're going to start doing it with stuff outside of college. And that's how you get fired. That's how you, obviously this is a jump, but this is how you live on the streets. This is how you become homeless because you develop these bad habits and you don't know how to break them. But yeah, that's my 2 cents about it.
I totally agree with y'all. I think that if we as a generation, oh, my voice, took more time to be by ourselves and to think about how our relationships with people would change. Like not just romantic, but like friendships and people we don't know, how much more empathetic we would be with people, how much more we would listen and actually listen and have dialogue with people that we don't agree with. Like, I think that's such a big thing. I think our generation is so woke and just like, we know all these things and we're like, yeah, we have the internet and like, we're educated, but there's some truth in that. But like, I feel like we don't know how to have dialogue with people who have differing views. And I feel like if we actually took time to think about our own thoughts and think about, as you were saying, how other people are feeling and how this might affect them, think about how that would change how we interact with people
Mhm.
and how that would form our society and how that would just cascade to so many other things. I think it's literally the foundation is to be by yourself and be with yourself. And to explore all these things in your mind. Like when I'm under stress, how do I respond? Or when I'm mad, what do I think about? Or, all these, when I'm happy, how do I feel? I responded to this person probably not in a great way. My inflection was like really mean or something like that. So anyways, I think that it's so important to think and to listen to yourself and listen to others really well.
Yeah, that level of like metacognition is super important. And kind of what you were saying initially, Brandon, about just and like how I interpreted what you said is like your ability to love others comes from the amount that you love yourself. And so like, for example, I don't love every single part of me. I judge myself daily, but
It's human.
you know, yeah, it's human. And it's like, man, dang it. But man, dang it. But when I say those things to myself now, I'm like, where did that come from? Should I listen to that voice? Where is that coming from? And another question that I ask myself is like, is that of God? Because God is love. He speaks in love. So when I hear those things that are self-destructive, I'm like, I'm not going to necessarily listen to those. I want to acknowledge it. And that might be a sign that I need to potentially change maybe my interaction for the future. But that doesn't necessarily define me. The thoughts that destroy me or try to anyway. And when other people tell me things that I'm like vulnerable or sensitive to, and they're like, oh, like you're so, like whatever. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. But it's when you realize it yourself, there's a lot of power that comes from that.
Yeah.
And so like when I was, younger or middle school, when people said, oh my gosh, like, you're so beautiful or whatever. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah. And like, I'm still like that, and I'm like, I really appreciate, their courage, and their just, overall just, friendliness towards me. And I also try to reciprocate that because I'm like, oh my gosh, but you impacted me like this, and that is just the way that we can appreciate each other. I think that is so, so awesome. So yeah, it's really complicated, but it's daily. Like, I'm not going to listen to those self-destructive thoughts or those intrusive thoughts, but I'm going to acknowledge them and say, hey, I still need to work on that. Or I need to figure out a way where I can make another path in my mind, kind of how you were saying, okay, so I'm saying this thought, what is a substitute that I could tell myself? Because if someone doesn't have an alternative habit, they're still going to use those deconstructive habits. And it's like, oh, well, just stop, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
I need
you
something.
couldn't even stop because you don't have really any other options to use in place of
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So
Yeah.
just maybe another dimension of like metacognition is creating another thought, another path, kind of how you were saying, to thoughts that are adaptive and not like maladaptive.
I wonder how, this is just a general question to everybody here, but when you hear the negative voices, you kind of spoke that God is kind of like your basis. You make all your decisions, you make all your thoughts, like what would God think? What would God do? How do the rest of you kind of, when you get those negative thoughts, when you start being judgmental about others, maybe yourself, how do you, how do you stop those thoughts? How do you kind of start by rewiring your brain? because obviously like change don't happen immediately.
Mhm.
You can't just, when something happens every single day, you can only hope to limit it over time for it to completely be diminished,
Right.
in the end. So what do you guys do to diminish it?
Go for it. You?
You got it, ladies first.
Oh gosh. I'm still figuring that out, honestly.
That's fair.
Because I'm such a thinker and I think too much
Yeah.
and I'm by myself too much.
I feel that energy.
So I start to ruminate on things. That's a psychology word, like thinking over and over and over about things. But I think for me, I would say it's similar to Sophie. And I think that's why it's so important to be in the word and to be in scripture, to know what is true and to know what God has said as we are his children and he has said to us as believers, and to know in our hearts, hey, like this isn't, if I say that I hate myself, if I say I hate the way that I look, that's not true, because the God of the universe, full circle back to the beginning, who created this magnificent world with so much detail and intricacy, he created me. And I like to think like this is the God who created the Grand Canyon and Sequoia National Park and all these amazing, beautiful places. And he created me. So I must be beautiful too. So I think being in the word and being in scripture is so important. But I know just in my experience, it is easy for me to get caught up in these thoughts that are destructive. So I think, being in scripture is really crucial to that, in my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Gabe, what you got?
I would say that for the negative thoughts in my head, I think that it's like a two-way thing, right? The purpose of prayer is is to build a relationship. In the same way that you talk to somebody, you build a relationship with God, right? And through that relationship is also the rewiring of my brain, the rewiring of my soul, and like the way that I think and perceive the world. And so half of me on some days is, very positive, very regenerative almost in a sense. Like maybe a year, 2 years ago, I would have reacted, like very upset, but now I'm very like, you know what? Like that's beneath me, or like, I don't have energy to spend on that, or sometimes those negative thoughts just don't come because it's not even like a part of my thinking anymore. Right. And sometimes it can, and it really depends on the subject that it is, maybe there's like an area of my life that I touch more than other places. And so my ability to have a positive response in the face of adversity is easier in one part of my life than it is in another part. For example, it's very easy for me to, sometimes it's easy for me to be like, well, if I don't click with this person, or, if people, people always, there's a habit of people switching up on you eventually, or, acting differently around you, or maybe you find out that just how disingenuous they are towards your friendships. My reaction 2 years ago might have been like very different, but like now it's like, if that's what it is, that's what it is. And I keep going, right? Because I know that, at least in my mind, I gave what I was supposed to give, but some days it's like, well, why is it so hard to find people that I can connect with, or why is it so hard to find genuine friendships, relationships, etc. You know what I'm saying? And like, those are two very different routes of thinking, both justified in the way my brain is perceiving the information. But one is different because it's like literally through my relationship with God, I've been able to like retrain the way that I perceive my situations, right? Like I think mostly in the world, people will look at situations and then they'll say, oh, that sucks. Dang, that's terrible. And then it just keeps going on, and they'll just like spiral into negativity. Right. And I mean, like for me now, my mode of thinking is like, oh, like that's tough. Okay, on to the next thing. And I'm off because I mean, like it happened. I can't change it, but I do know that I can do whatever I can to move past that and to work on the next thing that's in front of me, and like, it's like, am I going to sink or swim kind of vibe? Like, am I going to sit here and wallow and get in this despair, this little bubble of like self-pity and hatred? Or am I going to move that aside? I mean, like, maybe I'm pretty sure it was Baby who said this.
There's no way you're about to quote the Baby.
He said, chin up, chest out. How you do it? But no. But listen to me. Listen to me though. Listen to me.
Religious podcast.
No,
you're bringing up the Baby right now. Jonathan Kirk.
Was he in the Dua Lipa song?
I don't know.
Dua Lipa and the Baby.
Oh,
that part,
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Levitating? Yep.
Yes.
Levitating. Yeah. That's the only thing I know about that person.
That's fine. That's fine.
The Baby.
That's
Okay.
That's good. We can keep it there because the rest of the career kind of rocky. But he did make hits in like 2016.
Well, this is not a hip hop podcast.
No, it's 2018. Yeah, no, it ain't.
No, you straight, man. But I mean, like
chin up, chest out. Though.
Chin up, chest out.
Okay.
I mean, like, I don't know. At least for me, like my mentality. I mean, like you want to be taken seriously. You got to take yourself seriously. That's for me. That might not be everyone else's truth or like what they believe. But I mean, like on the days that I'm like hanging my head low, I mean, like no one's gonna want to be around that for me, And people already have reasons of why they don't want to be around me, and that's when I'm doing well. So I don't need to give them more reasons for that. And also, like even myself, it's like if someone is doing that, why would I want to be around them? Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer. My mom always said this. I'm a big believer in you're responsible for the energy that you bring around other people. And even like that's why me, like I'm an introvert in this. If I'm not feeling 100%, if I can't accept you in my space knowing good and well that I'm going to be giving you less than 100%, or knowing that I'm going to be giving you like half of my effort towards you, like sometimes my friends are like, hey, like you want to hang out? And I'd be like, listen, I'm not up to it. Or I'd say like, let's link later this week, And when I explain to them, it's like, hey, listen, if we were to meet up, what would have happened is I would have been silent. I would have been doing my own thing. And you would have been sitting there wondering what you did because of how I'm treating you. You know what I'm saying? And like in my head, in my space, I don't deserve to put you through that. But I also don't feel that is my responsibility to make sure that you understand like every like little like nook and cranny of why I'm doing what I'm doing. But you do deserve the respect. You know what I'm saying? You do deserve to know like, hey, like if you're going to be with me or you're going to be in my vicinity, I'm going to be treating you 100 the best way that I can. And I know I went off on a tangent there. I'm so sorry, but
it was very disconnected. But I mean, it had good.
It's all related.
What about you, Brandon? How do you?
I think what you were talking about with stuff is beneath me and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
And just kind of understanding the severity of what you're thinking or the situation that's right in front of you is a huge key. Like you really gonna beat yourself up because you ran out of toothpaste in the morning? Just go to the store and buy some toothpaste. It ain't a world crisis.
Or ask your roommate to borrow some.
Like a high school relationship. Okay, you've been dating them for 2 years. Okay, they cheated on you. That's life. I'm really sorry that happened. It's a part of life. Heartache is a part of life. Suffering is a part of life. You're gonna get past it eventually. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to have that grace period, but you know that it's going to get better in the end. And with that understanding, that's kind of how I just work. I always kind of look at the light at the end of the tunnel with a lot of things. I understand that, when every door closes, a window opens. Is that the right saying? That does not sound
okay.
It sounds okay. I don't know if it makes much sense, but
I like the optimism.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Optimism. Yeah.
Mhm.
No. Again, it kind of just talks about, things happen for a reason. When something doesn't go your way, I mean, you're supposed to learn from it and you're supposed to move on, because if you can't get back on your feet, then you're screwed, dude. You're going to be falling down the stairs of negative thoughts, and you're just going to keep beating yourself up until you're at the point where you're going to need like serious help, because you don't know how to even start to put the pieces back together, so kind of understanding that early and recognizing the important problems from the not so important problems are a huge thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important to have community and relationships, going back to our first topic, that we are aligned with.
Yeah.
People who will support you and call you out when you are in a period where you just keep cycling over and over again in your negative thoughts. And the thing is, there's so much of life to experience, and life is so wonderful and amazing. And I just know in my experience, I've just going through depression, it can feel so heavy and so weighty to be stuck in that negative cycle. But life is so beautiful, and there's so much of it to live. And it's so important to pick yourself up, and whatever the saying was that you just said, chest out.
Chin up,
Chin up, chest out.
Yeah. So,
Never forget that, no.
yeah. Friends are great to have to help you in that, for sure.
Yeah, because they know you well enough. They know what's important to you, and they can pull you out of that hole if they need to. So, yeah.
I like how you tied that in, just like with the alignment.
Yeah.
Good.
Full circle.
That's
Very
what it's
wise.
about, guys.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
We are at 9:56.
And
We have 4 minutes until this room is.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't think anybody's here
I
though.
don't think
yeah,
so.
but regardless, I do think like that what we have that we talked about today, it has been good. It has been really good.
Yeah.
That's been really good. And I'm grateful, to each of you guys for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Of course,
I
of
appreciate
course.
it.
Whenever I do these things, I'm telling you, it's like I have a day plan that I want to do it. And then I don't even know who I'm going to get yet. It's just like, it just, I'm
Spur of the
telling you.
moment.
Spirit move.
But I'm serious though. It's like
bit.
at that point, like God starts working and he's like, okay, well, just make sure you're there and I'll handle the rest. And I'm just like, who's going to be there? And so I don't know. I think I really could have had different people, but I think the fact of just like not rushing and being very intentional, the people that I have here is very important. Even for the people listening now, it's I don't want this to be a place where people argue for the sake of arguing, or they like we can talk about real things, like we can get upset about real things, about real pain that we're going through, wounds are real, you know what I'm saying? But there's also just like a way to do it. And I felt like this perspective has always been missing, and a lot of my friends' view about what Christianity is an idea of openness, and openness and intimate conversation and relationship with people. So, again, grateful, thankful for you guys. That is it. If there's anything else that you guys want to add, speak now, forever hold your peace.
Just remember, chin up, chest out.
Hey.
Chin up, chest out.
Motto for the week.
Motto for the
All
week.
for the week. It's Wednesday, so
Give it to you by the
Day.
baby. Who would have thought? Seriously, thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it. Thank you also,
Of
ladies.
course.
It was
Thank
really,
you
really
guys. It was
awesome
great to
hear
talk
what you
to
guys had
y'all.
to say. Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right.
All right then. All right, well, guys. Again, thanks for tuning in. There will be another episode at some point. That sounds
That's encouraging,
Gabe. Right? No, we're still figuring out a nice little production schedule to put out good episodes. But what I think what we're gonna start doing is putting out shorter episodes. By twice a month, maybe, and see how that goes. I think people have a short attention span. So, keeping it sweet and short to the point.
Thank you, TikTok.
Right?
Thank you, TikTok.
That's what I'm saying. I'm using TikTok right now, actually. This is crazy. But again, thanks for tuning in to Crooked Sticks. Again, conversation or community of conversation. That's what we do over here. We talk it out, talk about what's real, agree, disagree, agree to disagree, whatever it is. But it's all love.
Disagreeing today.
Huh?
Not much disagreeing today at all.
I would say that. Yeah.
Very cordial conversation.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good.
Very peaceful.
All right, then. I will see you guys in the next one. This is Gabriel. Peace out. God bless.